Italian football's credibility has been totally strained by doping scandals, especially in the 90s and 2000s. There have been persistent whispers and also some sort of evidence of systematic doping programs at top clubs. Now, this has not been contained to top clubs only. There are numerous individual cases of players failing drug tests. Zeman in 2017 was the whistleblower who opened Italian football's doping Pandora's box. In 1998, as coach of Roma, Zeman openly accused Serie A of widespread doping, saying football must come out of the pharmacy. His remarks were directed especially at Juventus players. Throughout the 1990s, Italian clubs were among the world's most successful, but rumors swirled that chemistry, not just tactics, played a part in their success. The most significant doping investigation centered on Juventus. In August 1998, Czech coach Zeman gave a bombshell interview pointing to unusual muscular physics of certain players and stating that Italian football was on steroids. He specifically named Juventus' stars, insinuating that their remarkable fitness was not just the result of training. These comments prompted Turin prosecutor Raffaele to launch a full-scale probe into Juventus' training regimen. The investigation, which lasted several years, uncovered startling evidence. In a 2002 raid on Juventus, authorities found 281 different pharmaceuticals stocked by the club, essentially a whole pharmacy's worth of medicines. While most were legal substances, the sheer quantity was really alarming. As an expert testified, the club was equipped like a small hospital. A pair of independent experts appointed by the court later concluded that Juventus had systematically administered prescription drugs to players without medical justification, and some of those drugs were Voltaren. This Voltaren was a strong anti inflammatory painkiller, and it was around given to 32 players in a non injury context. Samir, an antidepressant given to 23 players, none of whom had depression. Newton, a cardioprotective agent given to 14 players. Even more troubling were findings related to the blood boosting band hormone called EPO or erythropoietin. A hematologist's analysis of Juventus players' blood data indicated it was practically certain that at least two players, and the names were Anthony Conte and Alessio Tacanirati, had used EPO, and very probable that about seven others, including stars like Del Piero, Didier Deschamps, Paulo Montero, had taken EPO in microdoses. These conclusions, while compelling, were based on interference rather than a positive test, and Juventus's lawyer hotly contested them in November of 2004. The Turin court delivered a verdict. Juventus's longtime club doctor, Agricola, was found guilty of sporting fraud or doping for administering banned substance, including EPO, from 1994 to 1998. He was sentenced to 22 months in prison and banned from practice for the same period. Juventus D-then CEO Antonio Giaraudo, however, was acquitted at the trial. The verdict sent shock waves. It essentially validated Zeman's accusation and marked Juventus' 1990 success with an asterisk. One anti-doping official called it historic, as it was exceedingly rare for a major club to be convicted of systematic doping. Rival managers like Louis van Gaal asked that Juventus' title should be stripped if doping was confirmed. Let's look at how the Mafia influenced the Italian football leagues. Match fixing was a very natural target for the Mafia groups because of the potential gambling gains. Italian anti mafia officials have estimated that crime syndicates profited about 120 million euro per year from betting related match fixing. Italian football, with its passionate following and high stakes, has been a field for such activity. Some of the key examples were Camorra and betting scandals, which happened in 2011 to 12. Then there were Indraketa and Dirty Soccer in 2015. Then there were international syndicate incidents happening from 2012. The mafia's role in match fixing has two-folded sides. One, they provided the financing and intimidation to arrange fixes, and they handle the betting side to reap profits. Unlike club-driven scandals, mafia-driven fixes often involve threats or bribes directly to players or minor officials. For example, players in some smaller clubs have reported receiving veiled threats from mafia figures to cooperate or face consequences. Law enforcement has documented cases where ultra groups pressurized their own team players to underperform to satisfy betting schemes. The mafias were also tied to drug distribution among players. A notorious example is about Diego Maradona's time at Napoli. That was 1984 to 1991. Maradona, while leading Napoli to two Serie A titles, developed a cocaine addiction. The Camorra clans in Naples not only supplied him with drugs, but also turned him into some sort of a trophy friend. Photos later emerged of Maradona partying with Camorra bosses, like the Giuliano family, where it was included that the infamous picture of Maradona relaxing in a Camorra boss's luxurious shell-shaped bathtub in 1986. The Giuliano clan treated Maradona's patronage as status, and in return, Maradona received protection and drugs. This unholy alliance exemplified how the mafia can latch onto star players for mutual benefit. The player gets illicit drugs and safety. The mob gets prestige and potential influence on the player. When Maradona was handled a 15-month ban for cocaine in 1991, it also exposed how deeply the mafia tentacles had wrapped around him. Actually, there is very less direct evidence of mafia providing performance enhancing drugs, but it could be plausible. The black market for steroids and hormones in Italy often involve criminal networks. Now, besides mafia mixing games and drugs, they also influence into the management and supporter layers of football. There have been attempts by mafia figures to buy or invest in clubs as a way to launder money or gain community clout. One striking case was the attempted purchase of Lazio in 2006 by a consortium linked to the Camaros Calasli clan. Lazio legend Chinaglia fronted a group that tried to take over the club and was later indicated for extortion and added to Italy's most wanted list. Then there were the cases of money laundering through transfers. Mafia clans have also used the football transfer market in Serie A and Italian leagues to launder illicit funds. By buying a stake in a player's economic rights or facilitating transfers via shadow companies, they could turn dirty cash into legitimate transfer fees. And finally, there were also intimidation by the ultras or the fan group. Italy's ultra fan culture has its own criminal underbelly. In some clubs, even giant clubs like Juventus, Inter, and Napoli, the leadership of ultra groups has been infiltrated or taken over by mafia affiliates. These groups have engaged in racketeering, for instance, controlling ticket scalping, parking, or drug dealing in the stadium. A 2019 case saw Juventus ultras arrested for extorting the club. They threatened to choreograph racist chants unless they get more tickets to resell. Mafia and ultras can indirectly affect the team by creating security issues or pressuring players. The Camorra clan in Naples famously treated the Carva as their domain, at times coordinating banner messages supportive of their agendas. The Italian Parliamentary Anti-Mafia Commission even investigated the link between ultras and organized crime, noting that criminal organizations exert a sort of authority to ensure safety in stadium in exchange for favors. The mafia involvement has had a corrosive effect on Italian football whenever it came to light. It turns what is ostensibly a sport into a battleground for criminal interest. When fans suspect that a poor run of form might be due to mob interference or that a player's off field associations might compromise his on field performances, and it actually undermines the credibility of results. Serie A's administrators have worked to combat this. Clubs nowadays must pass anti mafia certification for owners. Clubs also collaborate with police in helping with other cases related to mafia interference. Over 40 plus years, Syria has endured numerous scandals that test its integrity. Match fixing schemes from Totonero to Calciopoli and Calciocomis demonstrated the lengths to which individuals would go to gain sporting or financial advantage. And this leads to sweeping punishments and reforms. Doping scandals, particularly around the turn of the millennium, raised questions about whether the beautiful game was being won in the lab rather than on the pitch. Italian football has shown resilience. After each scandal, there have been efforts to clean up. The 2006 Calciopoli cleanup, for instance, was followed by Italy winning the World Cup, a moment of redemption. Yet, the recurrence of scandals also teaches a humbling lesson. Vigilance must be constant. Thank you. Do like, share, and support us to know more about football related content.